Hi, I'm Lee Olmstead, and in today's video we're going to talk about the math practices. So the first one that we're looking at here is the Math Practice 1. Okay, Math Practice 1. I see that it's not listed. Oops. Okay, let's make an erase there. Math Practice 1. So we'll just go number 1. Make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So what we're talking about is that when you have a problem, make a plan, carry it out, and then look at its success. So things to think about before is look at the problem, explain on it, organize it, got a series of questions to ask yourself. During it, persevere, monitor, change, and ask what's going on, and then afterwards check your answer and evaluate your work. The second math practice, clear that out. The second, so number 2, reason abstractly and quantitatively. I can use reasonable habits to help me contextualize and decontextualize the problems. Sounds like big words here, but I like their explanation that they have here. Contextualize, I can take numbers and put them in a real-world context. So here they have an example. I walked 3 days for 2.5 miles. I wish they would have put it in order to help you out, or I walked 3 miles for 2.5 days. So I just switched that around. So it doesn't matter there. And then decontextualize it. So here, they're same example. I walked 2.5 miles per day for 3 days. How far did I walk? So that's what they mean about contextualize and decontextualize. Take the short word, okay? Context. What is the situation that you're in? Okay, and that's what they're talking about. Let's go on to the third one. The third math practice. Okay, I'm going to put number 3. Remember, there's a total of 8. Construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. You're going to hear me talk about discourse. Discourse is when you have a conversation with your peers when you're talking about things. So you can make conjectures and you critique the math thinking of others. So here you're going to construct, justify, and communicate your argument. Now an argument is not when you get in a big fight with somebody. An argument is your position. What is it that you believe and why that is? Over here, I can critique the reasoning of others. You're going to listen to them, check out what their arguments are, see if there's any flawed logic, if maybe they made a mistake, and then ask clarifying questions. Okay, that is so huge. Okay, move on to the next one. We are on standard number 4, or the math practice number 4, I'm sorry. Math practice number 4. Model with mathematics. I can recognize math in everyday life and use it to solve everyday problems. So they're talking about how can you do that. So with symbols, so think about writing an equation. Using pictures to kind of draw out what it is that you were trying to do. Concrete models. So like one of the first lessons we're going to get into is about integers. So we're going to use number lines and integer chips and different things. Things that can model. When it says concrete, something that you can put your hands on. What are the real world situations, and then the oral language, that discourse that we talked about. How can you use those to represent your math? We'll go on to number 5. So the 5th math practice, number 5 here. Use appropriate tools strategically. You know what to use, when to use it. Or sometimes you might have to just test and try to figure it out. So you're going to build this math toolbox. Now you've already started that since elementary school, and we're going to continue to do that. Are you going to use a protractor? Are you going to do a formula, work with a number line, the calculator, a table, a graph? You know, which tool are you going to use to help figure this out? And that's the math practice number 5. Use appropriate tools strategically. The 6th math practice is to attend to precision. Precision, I can use precision when solving problems and communicating my ideas. Accurately, efficiently. You know, there's a lot of models out there that you might use and it will help you solve the problem. But when you get into more complex problems, they're not going to be as efficient to use as some other ways. So we've got to help you figure out how to attend to precision. And then another big part is estimating versus finding the exact answer. What's the question asking you to do? Okay? Going on to the 7th standard. Again, the math practice. So number 7 math practice. Look for and make use of structures. I can see and understand how numbers and spaces are organized and put together as parts and wholes. So this uses the distributive property. Oops, went off the screen there, I think. But this is how you can break it up. Looking symbols, this is a picture, okay, that models. So we have 10 plus 3, which will be 13, that's this guy. 10 plus 5, which is 15. But then we kind of do some multiplication. A 10 times 10 gives us an area of 100. A 10 times 3 gives us 30. 5 times 10 gives us 50, and 5 times 3 gives us 15. So that's what all this is here, okay? And then we add those all up and we get that. So that's one way to be able to model. And then over here in spaces, this looks more like geometry, but again, the idea, what are the attributes, what's the dimensions and locations and all that, okay? And then our last math practice is going to be number 8. Look for number 8 before I get started here. Look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. I notice when calculations are repeated, okay, then I can find more efficient methods and shortcuts. So they give you an example here and they show you when 25 is divided by 11, you get 2.2727, and then you look here and here's a pattern, okay? You come down with a remainder of 30, subtract 22, you have 80, subtract 27, 30, subtract 22, 80, subtract 77, 30. Okay, so that's that repeating. And we are going to talk about repeating versus terminating decimals in our series this year. That's part of our math standards. So I hope these math practices will help you out, and this is something that you'll go back to and review, because these math practices are your tools to help you to become a better student and master your standards. Remember, everything is flipped mastery learning. I'm Lee Olmsted. Have a good day.